So today I'm going to take a look at the process of leaded light making, and we're at some workshops near Stratford upon Avon, and I'm going to be taking a close look at the processes involved. And so what have you actually got on your bench this morning?
We've got a diamond pane leaded light. It's 6 panes high but 4 panes wide, and all the glass needs cutting, lead needs cutting, and this is the process of cutting the glass.
Right.
So I like cut a strip of glass as wide as a diamond pane, and basically get it in between the two lines that have drawn on the template. Line everything up, and then by hand follow the line.
That's a lovely sound, that, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the sound you want. And you dip your cutter in oil?
The oil has already been dipped in oil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes the glass cut a lot easier.
Yeah.
And cleaner.
And how thick is this glass?
The glass is a 3mm float glass, which we buy in sheets and then cut it to suit the diamond strip, and then cut each pane by hand. You can use a jig, but these are all odd sizes, so by the time you set the jig up you can pretty much cut a lot of the glass already.
Quicker to cut it by hand.
Yeah. If they're all the same, then a jig works, but all these lights are slightly different, so I'll have to cut everything by hand.
Yeah.
And the process goes on. But yeah, you've got to be really accurate with glass cutting, because you get a cumulative error. So if I'm 1mm out on this pane, obviously each pane, if you add one onto every time, you're 5mm too big by the end of it.
It accumulates and then
yes,
so the wrong size.
The glass cutting is a big part of making sure your leaded light comes out the same size you want it to be.
Yeah, I can see that. And how long have you been doing this, Paul?
22 years now. So yeah, you should know what you're doing by now.
So you would call yourself a leaded light maker, would you?
Yeah, leaded light. Yeah, no, I'd say leaded light maker is how I would describe myself.
Yeah.
I say stained glass to most people just because a leaded light is quite a, you've almost got to be in the trade to know what a leaded light is. But it's basically a window made of lead to let light in.
Yeah.
Where obviously stained glass is, glass that's been painted and put in a furnace.
Right, and where are these leaded lights going? They're obviously going into a period house where...
Period property from the 1920s.
Right.
Yes.
And they're new ones to replace existing ones to this pattern?
Yes, these had already been, they're the original 1920s windows. But yeah, the leaded lights in them had been made again, so the glass was a historical value. So yeah, we basically made them from fresh glass. And as you can see, it's all very nice, clean cut and precise.
What's this first process with the sharpening that you're doing?
This is sharpening the lead knife, so it cuts through the lead easier and quicker.
Yeah.
As the lead sticks to a rough surface on the knife.
So after a number of many cuts, it starts to lose its
Yeah,
edge. Does
lose
it?
its edge,
Yeah.
and the blade gets rough, and that's the biggest thing. It doesn't cut through the lead as well.
Right, you want a good sharp
Yes,
blade
definitely.
then.
We're going to stretch the lead now. The lead, as you can see, is floppy and bendy and very malleable, which isn't very good for the straight lines we need on this window. So we put it in the vise.
And you call this lead cane because
This is
it's got
lead
like
cane,
a,
which is
just
in a
have little
H
look at
section,
the-
so it's formed in the machining. There's a H section, and then
Yeah.
the glass slots in either side of the H
like
section.
a couple of little channels in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Down the whole length. So then we get our pliers, hold the end, and then give it a pull, and that firms it up and makes
Right.
it stiffer,
And lovely and straight
And
by the look of it.
straight.
Yeah.
which is what you need. So you need to keep your lead straight when you're doing this type of window, because everything goes together better.
Yeah.
And then to cut, we've already sharpened our knife, so it should slide through. And we always cut the end off, because then you've got your mark in there. And then we measure each cross member and cut a piece of lead to it.
Would you allow a little bit over or?
A little bit over, because we are going to cut each end on an angle to suit the outer leads.
Yeah.
So I'll cut one more and then I'll show you. Mark it now. It's a nice thing about lead that it's nice and soft, so you can mark it with your finger.
Yeah. It doesn't take too much effort to cut it by the look of it.
No, as long as you've got a nice sharp thin knife, and give it the wobble, it cuts, yeah, like a knife, not quite through butter, but and then the angle you can see is already on the template, so then it's a case of lining the lead up, and you've got your angle there, and then follow it over.
Right, so you've just marked that then.
Mark that, ready for cutting, so we have to use a little jig here. And then you put that there, flatten the lead, and then cut to the mark. And then you have to go all the way through. And that should follow your template line, which it does.
Happy with that, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've
And
done
then
that a few
repeat.
times then, Paul?
Yes.
In your lifetime, in your working lifetime?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I've hit the 10,000 times now, so
10 million
I
times
can,
more
I
like.
can call myself an expert apparently.
Yeah. So that little jig is quite interesting then. So
Yes, the jig makes a very big difference into, if I tried, well I'll try it here, if you try and do it without a jig, you can see it's all bent over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I find it's better in the jig, marking the one side, cutting through one side,
Yeah.
and yeah, it makes your life a lot easier, and instead
So
of cutting bits off,
In fact, the jig has got a little slot in it then that allows
Yes.
the lead to go up either side of
that's it, you've got it.
Right, I see. So it doesn't squish in.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it's designed for, so you can
Yeah.
put it into the H section, mark it, cut it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't fold over, because it tends to want to fold over, as you can see there. And then when you go to butt that up against your lead, here for instance, you've got a massive gap where it's bent over.
Yeah.
So
So you want nice clean cuts.
yeah, clean cuts, and then
square
you're
cuts.
just butting things against each other rather than, because I could keep trimming that, but obviously every trimming means more time taken and
Yeah.
almost wasted. So if you do it right the first time,
You'd wanna
you
hit it.
shouldn't have to.
the first time of asking.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you just repeat the process then?
Yeah, I do.
Until
I
you
do
got
them all the way
matrix.
along. Some people do it as they go. I like to do everything like a production line of cutting all the leads for that way, and then you have the inserts that go in between these, and I'll cut all those as well. And then, yeah, it's literally a case of building it rather than cutting. Cutting and going from one aspect to the other. We try and do it all on a production level. So
Yeah. And then when you've got all the pieces cut,
yes.
You put it all on this template by the look of it, and then
Yes.
you're ready to solder.
Yes.
So this process is putting the glass in the leads.
Yeah, which slots in this side, and then you push it down into the H.
So all these leads have been pre-cut, and now you're sort of putting it together like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, that's it. And the last one's slotted in, and then we have the outer lead that goes over the top. And we use the horseshoe nails to keep it in position.
And are these literally horseshoe nails from
These
the
are,
farrier?
yeah, you've got it.
Yeah.
They've used them for hundreds of years. Obviously, I haven't designed anything better yet.
Yeah. Well, they look like they do a good job. They've got a large head you can.
Yeah, large head
Easily
and
hit.
a flat on one side, so it's good for tapping against the glass. So as long as you keep that
Yeah,
flat edge
yeah.
along the glass, it doesn't chip the glass.
Yeah.
Now we get a batten and knock it up to size.
So you tap it up tight.
Yeah, nice and
then
tight.
pin it.
Tighter the better, because then, yeah, all the leads are a lot tighter, which makes it easier for the soldering.
And all your measurements have been really precise up until the
Yes,
end, so
yeah.
everything goes together exactly the size you
That's
want it.
yeah. Yeah, you know you haven't done a good job if you get to the end, and yeah, you have to start knocking it or trimming glass down. The idea is that everything's so accurate that when you put it together, you haven't got to pull it apart to trim this bit down to make it the right
Yeah.
size. And after that, we go around tapping some of the proud joints down so the lead doesn't come through the solder. And just give them a feel.
So this gets everything nice and flat.
Yeah, so the solder stays flat and doesn't look lumpy and bumpy. Alright, and now we get the tallow wax, which is a flux for the solder to make it stick to the lead. And then we rub every joint of that.
Now, what is the idea of this tallow flax?
This basically makes the solder stick to the lead. Without it, basically you're left with a big blob on top and it doesn't flow over the lead cane.
So it's a type of flux?
This is it, yeah. The proper traditional, it's made of animal fat.
Right. And so then it like capillary draws into the little gaps?
Yeah. Yeah, well hopefully, yeah. There shouldn't be too many gaps that you need to do that. It sort of more sits on the top rather than goes in the gaps.
Uh-huh. And so you rub just a little bit over each joint.
Each joint.
And then it's going to heat up, melt.
Yeah.
Melt in. And attract the solder to that point, is it?
Yeah, and it won't flow anywhere that the wax doesn't. And then we are, always miss one, ready for soldering. Don't run that out. That's basically a copper rod with a tin tipped of solder and a propane bottle of gas. Yeah, and then we wait for that to heat up.
Yeah, so how long does that take to heat up?
It usually takes about probably three minutes, I'd say, to heat up.
It gets up to a sort of a working temperature?
Yes, gets up to, it's around 200 degrees. But yeah, it's very, if you have it too hot, you obviously burn through the lead. So it's a touchy-feely thing of, well, yeah, doing it for years, you sort of get the feel of how hot it should be,
Yeah.
rather than set to a temperature.
Yeah.
Right, we are, yeah, you want to be able to feed it in and it just take the solder.
Right.
This is a blowpipe solder. Most of it is made of lead, lead and tin. And then it's a case of feeding it into your tip and holding it on to it, let it spread onto the lead.
So I suppose you've got to put just the right amount
Yeah,
of
if you
lead
put too
on
much
without
on,
flooding it.
yeah, it goes everywhere.
Which would be down to your experience.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience thing of being able to feel it and sort of control it.
Yeah. But there's no danger of cracking the glass with this operation. because-
I have had it cracked before, but usually I find there'll be a micro crack in the glass already, and you heating it up is what's broken it rather than it breaking because you made it too warm.
Yeah. So it's basically repeat.
Yeah, repeat
these
is
joints, of which are
yeah, do a
many.
little swirl on those.
Yeah. Looks like a satisfying process.
Yeah. Oh, that's out, yeah. Once you get into the zone as well. You can get electric soldering iron, but because I've trained on this one, I prefer this one.
So when you first started doing this kind of work, this is the
this
soldering iron.
Yeah, this is how. Well, they would have originally used like a soldering iron, which is they would have heated up in a forge or heated up with a flame to get it to the right temperature. Where this is obviously a bit more controlled, that you can turn it up and down. The electric ones you can actually set to a temperature. It shouldn't go above that temperature, so in some ways people prefer them for that, so you can't burn through the lead, but it also has taken a bit of the skill away from being able to solder and knowing your solder to not burn through the lead with the flame.
Do you prefer this soldering iron?
Yeah, I definitely do, but I think a lot of that is because I've used it for years and years, so this is my preferred method. And I like the thought of it, being a bit more tradition of how they would have done it 100 years ago. And as you can see, it's sort of sitting on the top. We haven't had any fall through yet. So that's because the joints are nice and tight. We're not getting any solder fall through, because that's when you can get cracks in the pane. And if you get solder in there, it sort of locks the pane in position and it makes it harder to get the cement under, which is the waterproofing of the leaded light.
Yeah, there's quite a puddle of solder.
Yeah, it's knowing how much to put on and how little to put on almost.
Yeah.
It's very easy to put too much on and then you start spreading it down the leads. And the other thing with the solder is once you start it, there's not really any going back, and you can't take it off once it's on. So yeah, you're almost better. Well, you're better getting the exact right amount, rather than putting too much on and then it spreads down the lead and looks horrible.
It's another one of these one-hit processes.
Yeah.
Got to get it right first time.
We're almost there.
So what's next in the process?
The next process is scrubbing the flux off the leaded light. So each joint needs to be scrubbed with a brush to then take the flux off.
So you're cleaning it in a way?
Yeah, take the pins, take these out. Horseshoe nails. There's there. Pattern across. Cut off the overhangs.
So all the lead bits go into a
all the lead bits go
lead
into a bucket and then they will be melted down and used again for either lead canes or roofing or whatever, but everything's recycled.
And so that is the Christmas fund, is it?
Yes, Christmas.
Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the Christmas do.
Yeah.
And then we get our brush, and if you watch, you can see where the solder joint turns shiny, and that's when you rub off as much flux as you can, because the flux sort of eats into the lead and tarnishes it slightly, so it's not good for polishing, which is what he was doing.
So a lot of people would wonder how you managed to do that without cracking the glass, putting a flame over
Again,
it.
yeah,
So
I have cracked the glass more doing this this process than the soldering part, because it is, if you leave it on there too long, it will crack the paint because the heat transfers into the glass and will crack it, which is very disappointing after you've spent a few hours making it and then cracking it like this. So it's, again, it's more of a, as soon as that solder joint goes from dull to shiny, you know it's time to scrub. It's another thing you learn from making the mistake of cracking the glass.
Yeah, by your mistakes.
Yes, and that's it.
So in a way, you're melting the surface of that solder?
No, it's literally
flame,
just the
or-
flux. If you,
Oh,
that's the other thing, you can, if you leave it on long enough, then you melt the solder, and then when you go to scrub it, you actually scrub the solder over the lead, which looks terrible. And as I said, you can't take the solder off, so
Right.
it's,
So
it
in
doesn't
fact,
look good.
You don't want to melt the solder.
No,
in
it's,
fact.
you definitely don't want to,
No,
because
no.
yeah, as I said, you can. It's very easy to leave it on there too long, and then basically brush the solder all over your lovely lead, which looks terrible. And also the type of glass matters on. Yeah, an antique glass will crack a lot more easy than the float glass that we've got in this one. Just because it's thinner and it's got stresses built into it, so yeah, it's the glass matters as well, what type of glass it is. And that is, yeah, the finished leaded light. Now we have to flip it over and basically do the other side in the same way we've just done this one. And then usually we write the number of the leaded light to correspond with the window in the corner here, and you do that by scratching it into the lead. So then it's a permanent mark, so you've always got that to go back to. Job done.
So this is what you might call the cement shed then?
Yeah, this is the cement shed, which basically makes your window, makes it black because obviously it's shiny lead, and also waterproofs it because obviously we put the glass in the H section, but as you can hear, it's obviously rattly because all it is the glass in the H section of lead, so if water got in there, it's just going to go in and out the other side. So this process is very important because it waterproofs it and should make it last for 100 years, shall we? Yeah, we'll say 100 years. This process is lifting the leads because the leads are quite flat, so it's hard for the cement to get under. So we spread the leads with a knife. Again, you have to be careful because it's very easy to crack a pane doing this. And then go around each lead.
And that'd be a terrible nuisance if you cracked it.
Yes, yeah.
Having
Especially, yeah, some cracks are better than others, should we say, because if you crack one, I mean this one is small and it's only on the edge, but if you imagine like the diamond, if I broke a pane in the middle of it, I've got to cut the whole thing apart to be able to get to that pane. So it's a big step backwards.
Yeah.
If you do crack a pane,
To be
where if
avoided
it's
at
on
all
the
costs.
edge, I would cut along there, take that section out, replace the glass, and then put it back in and solder the edges. So that's not too bad. But when they're in the middle of a multi-pane leaded light, then you have to cut each solder joint and actually cut it in half to be able to get to that pane and pull it out and put a new one in, which yes, it does take time, especially after you've just spent ages making it, so it doesn't go down well if somebody breaks one in the cementing.
No.
This
So
is the
what is
cement
this?
here, which is basically a thin down putty, and yeah, it's got white spirits in and lamp black, and then like I said, it's basically a thin putty that then you rub round with a brush. This is the type of brush we use, and then it's a case of brushing it underneath the leads. This it's really important to get it under, because like I said, this is your waterproofing, so you can make a beautiful leaded light and do a really good job, but unless you've got the cement under there and under there well, your window's going to leak, and then that is coming out and being done again.
Yeah. So this looks like I mean, it's a fairly messy job, but you're containing
it's
in this room.
One of those that, you've got a room especially for it, because as you can see, everything goes black. Because it's got the lamp black in, it's very, it's hard to, it's very black, so you've only got to touch it and your fingers will be black, everything will be black. So it's a nice place to have a room on its own, it's dedicated to it. You wouldn't want to do it on your bench that you definitely make your leaded lights in, for sure.
Right, so different areas for different processes.
Yes, that's it.
Glass cutting on your glass cutting bench.
Because the thing with the soldering as well is everything needs to be clean for the soldering to go well. So keeping your bench clean and stuff like that is important.
Yeah.
Where in here, you almost got to accept it's going to be messy. So once you've rubbed it round, all the leads, brushing it round, I usually go around twice just to make sure.
No shortcuts with any of the processes, really?
No, they're quite long processes, but each process is important to getting a window at the end of it that's, like I said, should last 100 years.
Yeah, waterproof.
Yeah.
Sturdy.
You can tell it's gone well by, you can't really see probably on the camera, but in there I can see that the black's actually gone underneath and now is coming back round this side. So then you know you've done a good job then, and the cement is all the way around.
It's actually squeezing through the gap on the other side.
That's it, you've got it. And then so once you've done it, gone round, then I sort of scrub the leads as well, because if you don't scrub the leads, then they don't go black and you'll end up with like a patchy leaded light that's silver in places and black in others. So once that's done, we get the larrikin and push those leads down. Again, this is another classic break a pane moment, but as long as you don't push too hard but push hard enough to get the lead down, it's all good.
And this little tool is called a larrikin?
This is called a larrikin or a fid, depending on who you're talking to.
This one, well, nowadays they're made out of plastic, are they? Or?
Yes. Originally it would have been a wooden one, but they've changed to plastic. It's a lot cheaper, and you're not having to file the end all the time and stuff. So now it's a case of taking what you've put on off all of the glass and off the lead. Again, this is an important process to get it all off, because if you leave it and the cement dries on it, it's very hard to get off, and you have to sort of scrape it off because it sets like cement. You sort of have to take it off with a nail or a knife, which then leaves a silver patch underneath. So then you've got to go over it again to get it off.
And has it actually got cement in the mixture?
No, it's basically a putty solution made of a metal casement putty, and it is basically that thinned down.
With colour added?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you do the cleaning off process, it looks like you're actually sort of almost, brushing it in once again.
Yes, it's almost, although we brushed over the top, it's the scrubbing almost doesn't micro scratches the lead, so the cement actually goes into it rather than is sitting on the top, because the brushing definitely, you need to brush it quite a bit for it to sort of almost, doesn't soak in, but for it to get into the surface of the lead.
Would you have all leaded light glazing done in this way? Would it all be this colour?
Yeah. This is the traditional way of doing it. And yeah, you basically, once you've done that side, you need to, once you've gone over, you do this side, and then we put a dusting of chalk on the top. Rub it in with a brush, with a cloth that we've had for ages that is basically full of dust.
Nice and dry.
Yeah, keep it dry, not trying, because if you get loads of cement in it, then it scratches the lead, so it's one of those things you sort of look after. It's only a cloth, but yeah, the cloth needs to almost soak the dust in. And then we're flipping it over to do the other side. You need to take the stuff off the bench, or else you end up with a bowed bench, which is not good for leaded lights. And it's just a case of keeping everything clean as you can without spreading cement everywhere, because it's a job sort of anyone can do, but keeping clean is the skill in it almost, and making sure you've not spread it everywhere.
Start clean, stay clean.
Yes, and not to spread it all over your face, should we say?
Yeah.
Don't scratch an itch or anything like that.
No.
So yeah,
The powder that you put on?
the
What
powder
actually
is
the powder?
chalk. So it's basically, it is chalk crushed up, and that sort of soaks the moisture out of the cement, because if I didn't do that, as soon as I turned it over, all of the cement will start coming out of the leads. So this process sort of makes sure it like dries the edges and starts drawing the moisture out, because you want to start drying it almost as quick as you can, because because then you can actually polish the leaded light, because you do this process and then it sits for about 2 weeks, sometimes more depending on the weather and when it dries, before you can polish it, because if you don't let it dry, every time you move it, the cement squeezes out from underneath the leads, so it's important to let it dry.
Yeah, so just part of the process, you've got to factor that into how long
Yes,
it is from start to finish of when you can actually use the product at the end of the day.
Because you can do it when it is wet, but like I said, every time you turn it or move it, it's squirting out, and then you're wasting your time basically going over it again with a pick.
Yeah. So cement it and leave it.
Cement it, leave it for 2 weeks, and then it should be good to go. You can buy your own cements, but I prefer making our own, and then we've got control on it. The bought stuff does dry a bit quicker, but I always find it looks a bit bronzy rather than a grey or a black.
So the way that you make leaded lights is very traditional.
I would say this is traditional as it gets. There's nothing, like I said, the only thing that's really changed, I mean, I draw my own templates out, but nowadays a lot of people use the electric soldering iron, which is a change, and you can get a computer program to actually print your designs out and stuff. There's like a whole archive of them that you can basically print off on a printer, and then you've got that template to follow.
But you draw all yours out by hand?
Yes. Just getting it all off.
It's quite a lot to the process from start to finish if you think about it.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people may not know, just looking at the finished product or looking at a window with
Yeah,
leaded
it's
lights,
amazing how much time.
you'd never think there was this much work in it.
No, and obviously the more, like this has only got 6 panes and it's a small LED light just to show you how to do it, but if you get an intricate one with, you know, you can have hundreds of panes in a leaded light, and then you've got to go around each pane making sure you've got the cement under each one, which takes a lot of time and sort of memory of where you've been. I always try and do it in a, you know, do the outside lead first, then the inner ones, to try and get some sort of uniform method of doing something. So yeah, because all you've got to do is miss a pane, and then that's the pane that leaks. So a bit of dusting again. Again, you're literally just brushing over the top, because if you go too mad, you brush the black off, which then means you've got to scrub again.
Fine balance.
Yeah, if you want to do the process, the one process, do it well, and then you haven't got to go back, which is, when you know you're doing something right, that's how it should work.
One last scrub over them with the brush, and then
we clean them off, which usually I'll do them for the day, leave it till the end of the day, and then that gives it a little bit of time to dry, and then we get a pick and pick around each pane. And again, even this process, I mean, we've got 6 panes here, so it's not going to take very long at all. Obviously, if you've got a leaded light with 100 panes and you've got to go around each side with the pick, so it's another quite long process. But doing this makes it a lot easier to polish. So this process does take a bit of time, but then you save it on the next one. And then you get this scrubbing brush. This is a nylon one, it's a little bit coarse, but that is to basically get any cement off the glass and on the edge of the lead. Just sort of hold it at an angle. And that also takes any bits you've missed off the lead, because you don't want that drying onto the lead. Once that side down, flip it over.
So each process really builds on the last one and double checks everything is as it should be.
And like I said, making sure in this process makes the polishing a lot easier, and it gives a better finish, because then you've not got any bits of cement on the lead, which then you've got to try and pick off and darken the piece that you've just picked off. If you do this process well, it makes the polishing a lot easier and quicker.
So would this process be the same for stained glass?
Yeah,
this exactly the same, really.
I would do this on everything. You can leave it, but like I said, in my experience, you are making your life easier, and I think it gives a better finish when it comes to the polishing of them.
You wear these protective gloves just to keep your
like
hands
I said,
clean,
this has got lamp black
stay
in,
clean.
which is it's so black that it gets all into the pores of your skin and
your
fingerprints under your nails, and it's really hard to scrub off.
Yeah.
And then that's basically job done, a cemented leaded light.
So to finish the leaded light, you push cement into the gap between the glass and the lead.
Right.
And then we've let it dry for 2 weeks. So we're now just picking around what we've not managed to get around when we first cleaned it off before we polish it.
Right.
So you have a nice clean line down the lead.
Yeah.
Just rubbing it where the lead is dull to a higher kind of polish here.
Right, so you rub it all into the joints.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just go around about 10 times or something normally, and you get a good polish on it.
Right. So quite a process. It's not a quick thing.
No.
And then you end up with a polished look.
Yeah, a high polish is what you're going for. Kind of an even black colour across all of it.
Yeah. And it starts off as a lighter lead colour.
Yes, kind of it's a bit here, like it's a bit dull, isn't it?
Yeah.
Down here
yeah.
compared to here and where I've just polished.
I see. Yeah. So it darkens it in a way and finishes it.
Yeah.
Right, these have been in for 2 weeks, and as you can see, it stiffens the leaded light. If I was to do that with a silver one, it would be very wobbly and unstable. Now the cement's dry, it gives it stiffness. It's waterproof, it's black, and ready to go and fit into someone's house.
So that's the complete finished article.
Yeah, that's job done.
Yeah, and doesn't it look good?
Yeah, looks really good, and like I said, it'll last 100 years.
And all these on this side here, are they all finished?
These are finished, the black ones. That is our next job to cement.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great. What a satisfying process.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Paul.
No worries.